My name is Myra Whitmore. I'm 34, a cardiology resident, and a single mom to 3-year-old twins. 2 months ago, I was on a gurney in the ER, bleeding internally after a car crash. My hand shook as I called my parents. I needed anyone, to stay with Lily and Lucas for a few hours while surgeons tried to keep me alive. Instead, I got a text in our family group chat. "You've always been a nuisance and a burden. We have Taylor Swift tickets with Vanessa tonight. Figure it out yourself." So I did. Still strapped to monitors, I hired an emergency nanny service from my hospital bed, agreed to triple pay, and authorized everything over the phone. In those few minutes, I made a decision that would alter my entire life. I cut my parents off. No more mortgage payments. No more health insurance. No more emergency repairs. 8 years of silent financial support gone. 2 weeks later, there was a knock on my door. Before I tell you who was standing there and what unfolded, if you genuinely enjoy this kind of story, feel free to like and subscribe. Let me know in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is there. I love hearing from you. Now let me take you back to how all of this really began. Growing up in the Carver house, I learned early that love was tiered. Vanessa, my older sister, was always at the top. 3 years my senior, effortlessly beautiful, charismatic. She lit up every room she entered. Our parents glowed whenever she appeared. When she announced she wanted to be a fashion designer, Mom wept with joy. Dad called her our little visionary. When I said I wanted to be a doctor, Dad just nodded. That's practical. That was it. Practical. I told myself it didn't bother me. I dove into school instead, burying myself in textbooks. I aced exams, earned scholarships, and clawed my way into one of the best medical schools in the country. 4 years of undergrad, 4 years of medical school, then residency in cardiology. The day I graduated from med school should have been one of the happiest of my life. My parents showed up 2 hours late. "Sorry, sweetheart," Mom said, avoiding my eyes. Vanessa had an emergency meeting with a potential investor. We had to drop her off first. No flowers. No dinner out. Just a rushed photo in the parking lot before they sped off again because Vanessa needed emotional support after her meeting. 3 years earlier, for Vanessa's first fashion show, the entire family had flown to New York. 5-star hotel, front row seats, celebration dinners. Dad plastered Facebook with photos. "So proud of our talented girl." 17 posts. I got a grainy parking lot picture in a flat. "Congrats, honey." I told myself it was logical. Fashion is risky. Vanessa needed backup. Medicine is stable. I'd be fine. What I didn't understand then was that their favoritism wasn't just emotional, it was financial. And I was the one underwriting it. It started 8 years ago, right after I finished med school. One night Dad called, sounding embarrassed. "Myra, we're in a bit of a bind. The mortgage is due and things are tight this month. Could you help us out? Just this once. Just this once." I transferred $2,400 without a second thought. They were my parents. Of course I'd help. But just this once turned into every month. The mortgage payment. Then their health insurance premiums. $800 monthly. When Dad's company dropped coverage. Then emergencies. Car repairs, a leaking roof, a new furnace. I never said no. Not once. When I got pregnant with the twins and their father walked out at 5 months, I ended up in the hospital after a bleeding scare. I phoned my parents from my bed, terrified and alone. "Oh honey, we wish we could come," Mom said. "But Vanessa is so stressed after her show in Milan. She really needs us right now." They didn't come. Not then, not for the birth, not during the first sleepless month when I was nursing 2 newborns while cramming for my board exams. But the automatic transfers continued like clockwork. $2,400 on the 1st of every month. $800 on the 15th. Plus whatever extra they needed. I kept a spreadsheet. I'm not sure why. Maybe I needed proof I wasn't imagining it. Over 8 years, that spreadsheet added up to roughly $320,000. I never wanted a thank you parade. I didn't expect public gratitude. But I never in my worst nightmares expected to be labeled a burden by the people whose lives I'd been quietly funding. That reckoning was coming. I just didn't know how soon. The accident happened on a Tuesday evening. I was driving home after a 16-hour shift. Exhausted but still alert. The light turned green. I went through the intersection. I never saw the truck. It blew the red doing about 50, slamming into my driver's side. Glass shattered. Metal screamed. The world spun then disappeared. I woke in an ambulance, agony burning through my abdomen. A familiar voice cut through the chaos. Myra! Myra, can you hear me? Dr. Marcus Smith, one of our attendings, leaned into my line of sight. We'd worked together for 2 years. Marcus! My voice sounded wrong, thin, strained. What's happening? You were in an accident. We're taking you in. Possible internal bleeding. You're probably going to surgery. Surgery. The word hit like another impact. My kids. I grabbed his arm. Lily and Lucas, they're with the babysitter. She leaves at 8. He checked his watch. It's 7:15. 45 minutes. I had 45 minutes to find someone to watch my kids while surgeons opened my abdomen. Hands shaking, I fumbled for my phone. My fingertips left smears of blood on the screen as I pulled up my parents' contact and hit call. Dad answered on the 4th ring, voice impatient. Myra, we're about to leave. What is it? Dad, I need help. The words came between gasps of pain.
Car accident.
I'm being taken to the hospital for surgery. Please, I need you and Mom to watch the twins, just for a few hours. Silence. Then hold on. I heard muffled voices, Mom's irritated tone, Vanessa's laugh in the background. Then nothing. A few seconds later, instead of a voice, I got a notification. Family group chat. Mom's message popped up. Myra, you've always been a nuisance and a burden. We have Taylor Swift tickets with Vanessa tonight. We've been planning this for months. Figure it out yourself. I read it once, twice, 3 times. The words stayed the same. Another text followed from Dad. You're a doctor. You're used to hospitals. Don't make this into a bigger deal than it needs to be. Then Vanessa. A single laughing emoji. That was my worth to them, less than a concert. Marcus had been watching my face. I hadn't realized he could see my phone until he spoke quietly. Myra, what did they say? I couldn't answer. Something inside me tore, not just veins and organs but something deeper. I need a phone, I whispered. With internet. Means these. He handed me his without hesitation. I searched for 24-hour emergency nanny services, found one, and called. My voice switched to clinical mode, detached and efficient. I explained the situation. Yes, I'd pay triple. Yes, they could coordinate directly with my current sitter. Yes, they had my full authorization and my card. For minutes later it was arranged. I gave Marcus back his phone. He didn't comment, just watched me. Can you screenshot those texts? I asked, lifting my own phone slightly. Before it dies. He nodded. Yeah, I can. As the ambulance pulled into the bay, I let my eyes close. The physical pain was blinding, but what hurt most wasn't in my abdomen anymore. Lying in that bed, for in my arm, facing surgery, I made the simplest decision I'd ever made. I was done. The surgery lasted 4 hours. Ruptured spleen. Internal bleeding. They told me another few minutes and I might not have made it. I spent 5 days in the hospital, morphine haze, vital checks, careful steps toward a bathroom with help. My parents never called. Never texted. Never showed up. The emergency nanny service was expensive but flawless. They coordinated with my regular sitter. Kept Lily and Lucas safe, fed and entertained. They sent me daily photo updates. Strangers were handling my crisis with more care than my own parents. On day 3, I asked the nurse for my laptop. You sure you're up for that? She asked gently. You should be resting. I need to take care of something. My hands were calmer than I felt as I logged into my banking app. 8 years of automatic transfers stared back at me. $2,400 on the 1st, $800 on the 15th every month. I canceled every single one. Then I opened my phone settings and blocked my parents' numbers. Then Vanessa's. No big dramatic moment. No sobbing. No second guessing. It felt like setting down a backpack I'd worn so long I'd forgotten it was there. Marcus came by that afternoon like he had every day, bringing coffee and quiet company. How are you feeling? He asked. For the first time in 8 years, I said honestly, better. He didn't push. He just nodded like he understood. I knew my parents would eventually notice the missing money. I knew there would be calls, accusations, tears. I didn't know that the first knock would come from someone else entirely. 2 weeks after surgery, I was finally home. Moving slowly, sore but alive. It was a Saturday morning. I was flipping pancakes, Lily and Lucas chanting more. Like a tiny chorus. Butter hissed on the griddle. Maple syrup perfumed the kitchen. Lucas was stacking blocks. Lily was gleefully knocking them down. Then someone knocked 3 firm raps at the front door. My pulse spiked. If it was my parents, I wasn't ready. I wasn't sure I ever would be. I checked the peephole and froze. On my porch stood a tall, silver-haired man in his 70s. Blue eyes sharp and clear. Straight back despite age, carrying the kind of gravitas that comes from 40 years on the federal bench. Grandpa Thomas. I hadn't seen him in nearly 3 years. My parents always had a reason we couldn't visit. Too busy, too far, too much trouble. I opened the door. He pulled me into a hug so tight my healing incision twinged. "Myra," he said, voice rough. "Let me look at you." He stepped back, eyes searching my face, then dropping to my hand resting over my abdomen. "I know everything," he said quietly. "Eleanor told me." Aunt Eleanor, my mom's younger sister. The only one who'd ever openly questioned how my parents treated me. "Grandpa, I don't." He lifted a hand. "You don't owe me an explanation. But I do need you to come somewhere with me." He reached into his jacket and took out a cream-colored envelope, heavy and formal. An invitation. My 70th birthday party. Next Saturday. The whole family will be there. His gaze held mine. "I have some things that need to be said." He stayed for coffee. Lily and Lucas swarmed him with toys and questions. He lavished attention on them, completely enthralled. "They look just like you did at that age," he said, smiling. "Same stubborn chin." I set mugs on the table and sat across from him. "Grandpa, how did you find out? About the accident, about everything." "Eleanor called the night it happened," he said, wrapping his hands around his cup. "She heard from one of your cousins. When she told me what your parents did." He stopped, jaw tightening. "I've watched this for years, Myra. The way Helen and Richard treat you compared to Vanessa. I'm old, not blind. I thought maybe I was exaggerating it," I admitted, "making it bigger than it was." "You weren't," he said flatly. His tone carried the weight of a man who'd spent a lifetime sorting truth from lies. "I was a federal judge for 40 years. I know what favoritism looks like. I know what exploitation looks like." He leaned forward. "Tell me, do you still have records of the money you sent them?" I nodded. "Every transfer. 8 years. Good." He sat back. "I want you to put together a summary. Dates, amounts, everything." "Why?" "Because at my birthday party in front of the entire family, I intend for the truth to come out." His gaze never wavered. "Not as an attack. Not as revenge. As facts. And facts," he added, "have a way of speaking for themselves." My hands trembled slightly around my mug. "What if everyone hates me? The ones who matter won't." He squeezed my hand. "And the ones who do never deserved you." The next 2 weeks were a blur of paperwork and anxiety. I printed bank statements and transfer confirmations. 8 years of transactions, arranged chronologically in a simple manila folder. Seeing it all together was staggering. A steady river of money, always flowing in one direction. 3 days before the party, Aunt Eleanor came over. 55, sharp-tongued, proudly the black sheep, for refusing to pretend everything was fine. She flipped through the folder, her face darkening. $360,000, she said flatly. "Myra, do you understand what this represents?" "I know. It's more than most people earn in 7 years of full-time work." She set the folder down. "And they called you a burden." I braced my palms on the counter. "I don't want to blow up the family, Aunt Eleanor. I just want them to see it. To acknowledge it." "You're not blowing anything up." She rested a hand on my shoulder. "You're stopping a lie. They built their comfort on your silence. You don't owe them that silence anymore." I nodded, though my stomach churned. "What if everyone sides with them?" "Some will," she said frankly. "Family loyalty is funny that way. But your grandfather carries weight. And more importantly, you have the truth." That evening, I got a text from a cousin I barely knew. Heard you and your parents had a falling out. Vanessa's telling everyone you've been unstable since the accident. Just wanted you to know. They were already rewriting the story, painting me as unstable before I even arrived. I hadn't wanted a battle, but clearly one was coming. Grandpa's house was a colonial estate on 3 manicured acres. White columns, wraparound porch, quiet wealth and authority in wood and stone. I pulled into the circular driveway, hands tight on the wheel. Through the windows, the twins saw balloons and people and squealed. The driveway was full, at least 40 cars. The entire extended family, it seemed. I'd chosen a simple navy dress, professional, understated. I wasn't there for drama. I was there for the truth. The folder was in my bag. Inside, waiters floated with trays of champagne. A string quartet played softly. Crystal shimmered beneath chandeliers. I spotted my parents almost instantly near the fireplace. Dad in his best suit, looking polished. Mom in a cream dress, laughing with relatives. They saw me at the same moment. Mom's laughter died. Dad's face went stiff. We stared at each other for a long beat. Then Vanessa swept over, flawless as ever in a designer dress that probably exceeded my student loan payments. "Oh, Myra," she said, air-kissing my cheek. "You made it. We heard about your accident. Nothing too serious, I hope." "A ruptured spleen and internal bleeding," I replied evenly. "I almost died." Her smile faltered. "Mom said it was just a fender bender." "Mom wasn't there," I said, shifting Lucas on my hip. "None of you were." Her facade cracked for a second. Then she pasted the smile back on and patted my arm. "Well, you look fine. That's what matters." She drifted away. I could feel the storm building. It broke about 30 minutes later. I was pouring punch for the twins when I heard Vanessa's voice, pitched just loud enough to carry. "I'm really worried about Myra," she told a cluster of aunts and cousins near the dessert table. "The accident really affected her. She's been saying strange things. She cut Mom and Dad off for no reason." Mom joined in, dabbing her eyes. "We've tried everything, calls, texts. She won't respond. I think she's having some kind of breakdown." "Poor thing," someone murmured. "She's always been so sensitive," Vanessa added. "And with the stress of being a single mom," whispers. Pitying looks in my direction. I stayed silent, handed Lucas his cup, smoothed Lily's hair. Eleanor appeared at my elbow, voice low and furious. "They've been laying this groundwork all week. Calling relatives, planting seeds. They know something's coming." "I know," I said. "Are you okay?" she asked. Across the room, Grandpa watched the scene, expression unreadable, glass of whiskey in hand. He gave me the smallest nod. "I'm fine," I told her. "Let them talk." Then a glass clinked against crystal. The room quieted. Grandpa stood. At 70, he still commanded a space like a judge commanding a courtroom. All eyes turned to him. "Before we continue," he said, his voice carrying easily, "I have a few things to say." The energy shifted. "Pause before I tell you exactly what happened. Have you ever had someone try to rewrite your reality? Turn you into the crazy one just because you finally drew a line? If so, drop truth in the comments or share your own story. And if this is resonating, hit like, it really helps. Now back to the party." Before Grandpa could continue, Dad stepped forward. "Dad, wait," he said, composed on the surface but tight around the jaw. "Before you say anything, there's something the family should hear." Grandpa raised an eyebrow. "Richard." Dad turned to the room, wearing the expression of a wounded father. "Some of you may have heard that my daughter Myra has been having a difficult time." He gestured toward me, offering a sad smile. "Since the accident, she's been confused, distant. She's cut off contact with Helen and me completely." Mom came to his side, clutching a handkerchief. "We've only ever wanted the best for her," she said, voice shaking. "But she's been spreading terrible lies, saying we abandoned her, that we don't love her." The room was silent. I felt dozens of eyes on me. "We've tried to be patient," Dad went on. "It's been heartbreaking. We gave that girl everything." "Everything," Vanessa chimed in from across the room. "She's even claiming we refused to help her during her accident, which is absolutely not true. There must be some misunderstanding." Sympathetic murmurs. Poor things. An aunt approached me hesitantly. Myra, honey, are you okay? Your parents are so worried. I opened my mouth, but before I could respond, Grandpa's voice cut through like a gavel. Are you finished, Richard? The question was quiet but edged with steel. Dad's face tightened. I just thought the family should know. The family should know the truth, Grandpa interrupted. And I intend to give it to them. He walked to the center of the room, every step deliberate. I've heard your concerns, he said calmly. You've painted a picture of a troubled young woman turning on her loving family. He paused, letting the words hang. Now I have a few questions. Dad shifted. Dad, this isn't. This is exactly the place, Grandpa said, voice firming. This is family. Families deserve the truth. He turned to my father. Richard, a simple one. Who has been paying the mortgage on your house for the last 8 years? Color drained from Dad's face. What? Your mortgage, Grandpa repeated. $400 a month. 8 years. Who pays it? We, Dad glanced at Mom. We pay our own mortgage. Do you? Grandpa reached into his jacket and pulled out a folder, my folder. Because I have here a complete record of bank transfers from Myra's account to your mortgage company, every month for 96 consecutive months. A low murmur rippled through the crowd. That's a misunderstanding, Mom stammered. Myra offered. We never asked. I'm not suggesting you threatened her, Grandpa said. I'm just establishing facts. He opened the folder. Let's look at some numbers. Vanessa had gone pale. Dad's fists were clenched. Mom looked seconds away from collapsing. 8 years, Grandpa said, scanning the pages. Mortgage payments. $230,400. That is the house Richard and Helen live in. The one they claim they pay for themselves. Gasps. Health insurance premiums, he continued. $76,800. When Richard lost company coverage, Myra picked up the tab. He turned a page. Car repairs, home maintenance, other emergencies. About $45,000. Another page. Financial support for Vanessa's fashion ventures. $12,000. He shut the folder. Total. Approximately $364,200. Silence. For context, Aunt Eleanor added, stepping forward. That's more than many people earn in 7 years of full-time work. Myra paid all this while finishing her residency and raising twins alone. She offered. Mom whispered, voice cracking. We never forced her. No one said you did, Grandpa replied. But I am curious, over these 8 years, how many times did you thank her? No answer. How many times did you visit when she was hospitalized during her pregnancy? Nothing. Or after the twins were born? Still nothing. Mom began to cry, hard and ungraceful. We thought she was fine, Dad said weakly. She never complained. She always managed. She managed, Grandpa echoed. Because she had to. Because you taught her her needs didn't matter. An uncle in the back shook his head. Jesus, Richard. 360 grand, and you call her a burden. Dad flinched. There's one more thing, Grandpa said. He pulled out his phone and slid on reading glasses. 2 months ago, Myra was in a serious car accident. She was in an ambulance, bleeding internally, headed for emergency surgery. Her children were home with a sitter who was about to leave. She called you for help. He looked at my parents. This is the text she received in reply. From Helen. I'll read it verbatim. He cleared his throat. Myra, you've always been a nuisance and a burden. We have Taylor Swift tickets with Vanessa tonight. Figure it out yourself. The room erupted. Oh my God. That can't be right. You're twisting it, Vanessa said desperately. You're taking it out of context. There is no context, Eleanor snapped. That makes that acceptable. We didn't know it was serious. Dad shouted. Did you ask? Grandpa's voice sliced through the noise. Did you call her back? Did you go to the hospital? Silence. For the record, he said, the answer to all three is no. A cousin quietly stepped away from my parents, face pinched in disgust. Others followed. Mom sobbed. I didn't mean it like that. I was frustrated. You didn't think your daughter might die, Grandpa finished. Because you weren't thinking of her at all. He turned to the room. I'm not asking anyone to judge.
I'm presenting facts.
What you do with them is up to you. Finally, he looked at me, his expression softening. Myra, is there anything you'd like to say? I hadn't planned to speak. I'd imagined standing quietly while facts cleared my name. But seeing my parents' faces, Mom crumbling, Dad stunned, Vanessa's mask slipping, I realized I did have something to say. I passed Lucas to Eleanor and stepped forward. I didn't come here for revenge, I began. My voice was steadier than I felt. I came because Grandpa invited me. And because for 34 years, I've lived inside a version of our family that wasn't real. I looked at my parents. In that version, I was the strong one, the dependable one, the one who didn't need anything. I believed you when you said Vanessa needed more help because her world was harder. That I'd be fine because medicine is practical. So I tried to be what you needed, reliable, low maintenance, invisible. A tear slid down my cheek. I let it. But lying in that ambulance, terrified and alone, I finally understood. You didn't see me as strong. You saw me as convenient. Not reliable, exploitable. And no matter how much I gave, it would never change the way you viewed me compared to her. An aunt squeezed my arm. A cousin nodded, eyes shining. Myra, Dad started. I'm not finished. He closed his mouth. I don't hate you, I said quietly. But I can't keep pretending this is okay. I can't keep paying for love that should have been free. An uncle turned to my father. You lived off your kid while treating her like she was nothing. The mood of the room was shifting, away from my parents. So what now? Dad demanded, desperation creeping in. You've humiliated us in front of everyone. Are you satisfied? I'm not satisfied, I said. None of this makes me happy. But I'm not sorry either. This isn't about humiliation. It's about honesty. For the first time in 8 years, people are hearing what actually happened. Not your story, not Vanessa's spin. The truth. This is ridiculous, Vanessa snapped. You're acting like we're monsters. We're your family. Families help each other. You're right, I said, turning to her. Families do help each other. So where were you when I was pregnant and alone? When I was waking every 2 hours with newborn twins and studying for boards? When I was bleeding out in an ambulance? Where were you then? She had no answer. I looked back at my parents. From now on, I won't be sending money. Not because I can't. Because in a healthy family, financial support is a gift, not a duty. It isn't one way. It doesn't come at the cost of respect. Mom reached out. Myra, please. And I'm not saying we'll never speak again, I continued. But I need space. Real space. Not a few weeks of guilt and then back to business as usual. I need you to sit with what you've done. And if someday you can really acknowledge it, maybe we can build something new. Maybe. I took Lucas back from Eleanor. But I won't hold my breath. A great aunt came to me and clasped my hands. I'm so sorry, sweetheart. I had no idea. I always thought you were the one who had it easy. I know, I said softly. That's how it was supposed to look. Quick check-in. Did that moment, me finally speaking up, hit something in you? So many of us are taught that family means endless sacrifice without boundaries. If you've ever been made to feel guilty for saying no, type boundaries in the comments and share this with someone who needs to hear it. Now, here's what happened after the party ended. My parents left early. No one stopped them. No one said goodbye. Dad half-carried Mom, who sobbed into his shoulder. Vanessa trailed after them, staring at the floor. The silence they left felt like the quiet after a storm, heavy but cleansing. In the days that followed, my phone buzzed constantly. Cousins I barely knew messaged apologies. Aunts and uncles who believed in the image of our perfect family started rethinking it all. I always thought you were the difficult one, my cousin Rachel texted. Vanessa made it sound like you just pulled away for no reason. I'm so sorry I believed that. The family group chat, the same one where I'd been called a burden, went quiet. Then it disappeared. My parents began to find themselves quietly left off guest lists. No invites to cousin Michael's 40th. No seat at Eleanor's Easter brunch. No public declarations, no drawn lines. People simply stopped including them. 2 weeks after the party, my mother called from a new number. I let it go to voicemail. Myra, please. We need to talk. This has been blown out of proportion. Your father is devastated.
I'm devastated.
Can't we move past this? I listened once, then deleted it. I'd finally learned that forgiveness isn't a reset button. It's something you give for your own peace. And I wasn't there yet. The financial fallout came next. 3 months after the party, Eleanor called. They're selling the house, she said. I set my mug down. What? Your parents. It's on the market. Word is they can't keep up with the payments. I waited for satisfaction, guilt, something. Mostly I felt tired. Where will they go? Frank's letting them use his guest house for now, she said. But there are strings. They have to get jobs. Real ones. No more coasting. My parents hadn't worked full-time in years. Dad took early retirement at 55. Mom never worked outside the home. They had no idea how dependent they'd become on my income until it disappeared. What about Vanessa? She can't help. I asked. Eleanor actually laughed. Vanessa's barely staying afloat. That party story traveled. Someone knew someone in her industry. She lost a big contract. Last I heard, she's waitressing part-time. I watched Lily and Lucas chasing each other in the yard. I don't want them to suffer, I said. I know you don't, Eleanor replied gently. That's because you're decent. But they didn't suffer for 8 years because you protected them. They didn't grow. You stepping back isn't cruelty. It's reality. She was right. I knew it. That night I sat with my new budget. The $3,200 a month that had once propped up my parents now flowed into Lily and Lucas's college fund. My kids would never have to choose between their own future and someone else's irresponsibility. That felt like justice enough. 6 months later, on a Tuesday night, an unknown number flashed on my phone as I tucked the twins into bed. Normally I ignore those. But something told me to answer. Myra. It was Vanessa. Her voice sounded smaller. The smooth confidence was gone. Please don't hang up, she said quickly. I know I don't deserve your time, but I need to say something. I'm listening, I said, sitting on the edge of my bed.
I'm sorry.
The words came out broken. I'm so sorry. For how I treated you. For the things I said. For laughing at that text when you were. Her voice cracked. When you were dying. I laughed. What kind of person does that? I said nothing, just waited. I knew Mom and Dad were struggling, she continued. But I didn't know it was all you. 8 years. Myra, how did I not know? Did you ever ask? I said quietly. Silence. No, she whispered. I didn't. I didn't want to know. I liked being the favorite. I liked that everything was easy. She let out a bitter laugh. Nothing's easy now. I heard about the contract, I said. Yeah. Turns out reputation matters, she said. Imagine that. We sat in silence. I'm not asking for money, she said at last. Or even forgiveness. I just needed to say I see it now. What I was. What Mom and Dad did. I see it. Then start there, I said. Stand on your own. Be better. I'm trying, she said, voice thick. Good. I hung up and for the first time in this whole mess, felt a flicker of hope. 6 months after that call, 1 year after the accident, I watched the sun set in my new apartment. It was modest. 2 bedrooms, 1 bath, a small kitchen. But it was close to the hospital in a good school district, and most importantly, it was mine. No hidden mortgage subsidizing someone else's house. No insurance premiums for people who belittled me. Just rent, utilities, and a college fund that grew every month. Lily and Lucas were at Grandpa's. Over the past year, he'd become a cornerstone in our lives. Sunday outings to the zoo, the park, ice cream he pretended I didn't know about. They're good kids, he told me once. You're raising them right. From him, that meant everything. Eleanor and I became close. Dinners twice a month, long talks about boundaries and guilt, and learning to choose myself without apology. You know what I admire most about you, she said one night. You didn't turn bitter. Most people would. What's the point? I said. Bitterness is just drinking poison and hoping someone else gets sick. As for my parents, we hadn't spoken. I'd heard through family that they were still in Frank's guest house. Dad had a part-time job at a hardware store. Mom did bookkeeping for a church. They weren't thriving, but they weren't destitute either. Sometimes I wondered if they thought about me, if they regretted anything, if they missed their grandchildren. But I'd carried their weight for 34 years. Those questions weren't mine to hold anymore. If you're still here with me, I want to leave you with something. Not advice exactly, but a lesson I almost died to learn. For most of my life, I believed love was something you could earn. That if I gave enough, sacrificed enough, asked for nothing, the people who were supposed to love me would finally see my worth. I was wrong. Love isn't a reward for usefulness. It's not a transaction or a ledger. The people in my life now, Grandpa, Eleanor, friends like Marcus who showed up when my own parents wouldn't, they don't love me because of what I provide. They love me because I'm me. That's the difference. And it took an operating table and a near-death experience to finally understand it. I don't know what the future holds with my parents. Maybe they'll truly change. Maybe one day they'll reach out with real remorse, ready to rebuild something honest. If that happens, I'll consider it. But I won't wait for it. I won't shape my life around a hope that may never come. My life is mine now. My time, my energy, my money, my love. And if the people who raised you call your self-respect betrayal, maybe they never deserved your loyalty in the first place. If you're out there carrying a weight that was never yours, it's okay to put it down. It's okay to choose yourself. That doesn't make you selfish, or ungrateful, or a burden. It means you're finally free. If this story resonated with you, please like and subscribe. It truly helps. I'd love to hear from you. Have you ever had to set a boundary with family? How did it change your life? Share in the comments. And if you want more stories about finding your voice and standing your ground, check the video in the description. Until next time, take care of yourself. You deserve it.